Hi everyone, my name is Ethan Stafford and I'll be going over different channels of communication for working in a project in the software industry. So if you're a computer science major or you're interested in working in the software industry, these are potential methods of communication for different types of context while you're working on a project. So what I did is I split it into three different subcategories. So I have task, so that's the type of task you're working on, the recipient, who you're communicating with, and the time frame, whether you're inside of current working hours or you're outside of current working hours. So first is just workflow documentation. So that's kind of updating your team members on what's going on. It's basic meeting communication things. So non-essential work, but still something that's critical for communication amongst team members. If you're talking to a team member, you probably want to use Slack. So if you haven't heard of Slack before, that's kind of an online communication program that's similar to Discord, but more for a professional setting, where you can just communicate quick messages. It's kind of like a message board where you can communicate with different team members. So if you're inside of current working hours, you probably want to use Slack. Outside of current working hours, if you're working with a team member, you probably want to text them because they may not have access to their Slack account, and there's not really a worry of being unprofessional with texting, especially in a software development environment. There's not really that cordial nature you have to abide by. If you're talking to a project lead, that is definitely different. You want to use Slack because they're kind of monitoring it during work hours. They're seeing how team members are doing. So that is very critical to communicate with them on Slack. But outside of current working hours, you probably want to use email. If you're talking to anybody that's not a project lead but is more management, you just want to use email for workflow documentation. That remains the same for both a major project software update and bug fixing. Even if the issue is critical, there's not a lot a manager can do about such a thing. So email is really your only choice for all three of these different kinds of issues. For a major project software update, team members, you probably want to use Slack because then you have documentation on exactly what the communication is. So Slack's really good, even outside of current working hours. Just try to access that and wait for the next working day, because you want to make sure that everyone is available when you commit to a major update. For the project lead, you're probably going to want to use email, because they're just kind of monitoring everything, so you want to just communicate with them through email, and then manager is always email. For bug fixing, it's actually the same as workflow documentation. So this is really non-essential updates. Still important, but really non-essential. So that would be Slack and text during non-working hours. For project lead, that would be Slack and that would be email. And then for manager, it's always email. You really want to maintain that cordial aspect when you're communicating with the manager, because they're not really directly involved in that process. So you can wait a few hours to get a response from them. But yeah, that's the kind of different methods of communication that I would use in a software development environment.